Hello everyone, coming up on FTC Top 25, we have our results for the December Top 25, and they're comprised of your votes from the community. We have teams from 3 countries on the list and multiple US states, so let's get ready for the December POWERPLAY FTC Top 25.
This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. At Kettering University, over 30% of the student population was in high school robotics. These same students have received a portion of over $7 million in scholarships. Scholarship applications for FIRST students are now available. Get more information at kettering.edu/first. SOLIDWORKS is free for FIRST teams. Over 80% of U.S. engineering schools and 370,000 plus companies use SOLIDWORKS to design great products. SOLIDWORKS can help you design a great robot on desktop or on the cloud. Go to solidworks.com/first to register your team.
Welcome to the FTC Top 25, where we reveal the top 25 teams you guys voted for. From First Updates Now, I'm Abbas, and joining me tonight are Sahil and Tyler. We're excited to have you all back for the POWERPLAY season and for so many of you to participate in the voting for FTC Top 25. Make sure next month you keep an eye out for when the voting opens to cast your votes again. And tonight we have some super awesome sponsorship giveaways, or some super awesome giveaways from both Axon Robotics and AndyMark for random viewers and 2 random teams who made the FTC Top 25. So stay tuned to hear how you can enter and win those awesome products. Let's get right into the December FTC Top 25. Sahil, who are we starting off with?
Coming in the 25th spot is 11970 Titanium Talons. This team has a very robust robot design that seems to be very effective in getting cones straight from the loading zone and running cycles without having them to move the robot. It's really effective, and when it can pick up straight from the stack of cones, it can really come effective when it comes to autonomous and even cycling and teleop.
Yeah, I think it's like really interesting how a team that's this good is in the 25th spot of our top 25, right? So it just shows you like how competitive this season is, and especially like how competitive all of these top 25 robots are. You know?
Oh, yes.
I'm guessing some people will disagree with them in the 25th spot and want them higher. Definitely still a great team to have on this list.
Yeah, 100%. So in the 24th spot, we have our first team from California, and that's Team 7303, the Robo Avatars. They're a very strong team every season, and POWERPLAY is definitely no exception. This year, they have a super quick lift, Vex spinning wheel style intake, and consistent driving, which resulted in them going 9-0 through qualifications and then playoffs. With a high score of 169 in playoffs, Robo Avatars is currently ranked 12th in California. And I think one thing that's always interesting with NorCal teams is like how much time they get to rebuild between their qualifiers and then their NorCal regional championship, and which is usually in March. And so I'm sure 7303, if they keep this robot, but knowing them, they're probably going to shoot for bigger and better things. Either way, it's just going to be really great. And Sahil, what do you think of this whole like Vex style intake? I think day one, it was like a lot more popular, like everyone was saying like, oh, this will be like a very easy way to pick up the cones, and like everyone's probably going to be doing it. But I think as we've seen the season progress, it's honestly like less popular than people initially expected it to be. Do you disagree, agree? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I've noticed most teams, if they're going for like a pickup mechanism, it's either just like a simple claw or like a gripping kind of mechanism. And we haven't seen like wheels been used that much, but there's a few teams who have been doing it well, and they're coming probably up later on in the top 25. But
Yeah.
for the most part, I think it's definitely a very interesting play style, but I can see them definitely changing it and using a different method.
Yeah, definitely. I think like one of the bigger concerns with it is weight, but with teams starting to counter spring their arms more and running constant force springs or just normal extension springs and torsion springs, it's like it's more reasonable to run heavier mechanisms like that. And speaking of active intakes, another favorite, or why don't you talk about our next team?
Yes. In our next spot, in the 23rd, we have another favorite on the list is 16460 Gearheads. This is one of the only teams this season that will have an active intake, and it looks like it's been working pretty well for them, as they were the winning alliance at their last qualifier. With the highest score of 180 points, it will be interesting to see how they pick up the auto stack with the active intake. Maybe they use another part of the robot to deal with that.
Yeah, I think that's like my main concern with this style of intake. It's definitely pretty versatile, and being winning alliance captain, they're definitely very good at what they do. But we're seeing like a lot of teams increasingly going for that like 1+5, and even a couple getting even more cones than that. So I'm very interested to see like how Gearheads maintains like a super high ranking with an intake like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in 22nd, we have a team from Caldwell, New Jersey. That's none other than Beaks and Bolts. And although they're not like a familiar face on our top 25, like a seasoned veteran team that we're super used to hearing about, Beaks and Bolts is doing extremely well so far this season. They're currently ranked 8th in the world with an OPR of 133 points. And of course, they're first in their league. And they've taken a more traditional approach, I'd say, to the power play challenge. They have a Mecanum drivetrain, Viper Slide kit lift, and a simple claw on the front. And there's definitely no knocking this design. It's been working extremely well for them. We can see them up in the top left of the screen just doing cycle after cycle. And I mean, it's just, I think their rapid driving and like ease of control in the driver control period has really resulted in super high scores for them just every single match.
Yeah, what I've noticed is like not too many teams have a very, very fast drivetrain. Either they go for being able to pick it up from the spot and like use a linear slide system to directly deposit on the on top of the different circuits. And I feel like this team, they do it pretty well, be able to go around the field, practice their driving, maneuvering around the different parts of the
Definitely. Yeah. Driver practice is just so key to this game.
yeah. In the next spot, for the 21st spot, we have a very interesting design for this team. It is no other than Team 15004 Technologic. They have a cup-like design that extends out and grabs the cone. It definitely is a different and completely new technique, which is what we love to see when we're putting teams in the top 25.
Yeah, and you were just talking about like teams that have like a slower drivetrain, or like they don't move a lot and then have like a huge arm that swings around. And this is like definitely one of those teams. I remember watching them just do cone after cone in the driver controlled period earlier in the season. It looks like they've made some changes to their intake throughout the season, which is something you expect from teams. And it looks like maybe it has better funneling capabilities than it did earlier, but I'm sure they still have like that super fast cycle time just sitting in one position. And we'll probably see them get ready, get set up for that now. And I think one thing that's really important with these designs is like how long it takes to get that first cycle down, right? It looks like they sort of like check their position or something with going out before there's even a cone in the human player terminal. And after that, you can see they just pick it up and drop it one after another, and it's 4, maybe 5 second cycles. And it's definitely proven super useful for them this season.
I just want to
Yeah,
say, by the way, I love that there's middle school teams that are making this list as well, too. I know this is a key season right now for Michigan, with there's other state champs coming up this weekend, but it's really cool. I think we got a couple Michigan teams as well, too, so really looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. And every year we have a couple super strong Michigan teams, and I'm sure they'll perform really, really well at their state champs this weekend. And so starting off our top 20 is a team from Washington. That's the Emerald Bots from Sammamish, Washington. And about 2 weeks ago, they scored 265 points in a match with, I believe, the first 9-cone auto. That's both preloads from either alliance and then 7 additional cones. And the crazy part is that they easily could have gotten 20 more points if they hadn't missed like the 2 cones in the autonomous period. And so Emerald Bots is another one of those bots with a super small, fast chassis with a wicked fast lift. And I wonder like where they're going to go from here. I know they have like a super competitive league and interleagues, and Washington itself is a very competitive state. So it'll be interesting to see if they add any like rotational capabilities to their arms, or just go for a different design, or how they're going to speed it up. And I think we won't have to wait long to see them compete again, as they will be competing this weekend with their interleague tournament.
Yeah, I definitely think a 9-cycle autonomous is definitely very interesting, because you don't see that many teams doing that very early on. And if they are, then it's just they get max probably 5, maybe 6. And this team is like getting a lot more than the other teams.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like part of the fact that like they had a good alliance partner as well. But like the fact that they were both able to hit like their 1+5s, even though they missed a few, was definitely very impressive. Why don't you go on to 19th, Saho?
In the 19th spot, we have a Cali favorite and a very well-known team. It is none other than 6165 MSET Cuttlefish. They have exterior design very similar to their previous robot, with a smooth turret for picking it up and releasing of the cones onto the junctions.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Cali favorite MSET Cuttlefish is just crazy every single year. I think this year they are just equally impressive, and I'm very excited to see like how they tune the robot. It seems like mechanically and software wise, it's like almost all the way there. They just need to do a little more tuning and practice. I think one of the main issues I saw with them was like their turret stabilization. I don't know, it seemed to wobble around a lot. But I'm sure it's something they can definitely get fixed very easily. They're a very skilled team. So I expect we'll see them again on this top 25 and, maybe even higher in the future. So while we're on the subject of California teams, let's welcome another one, and that's team 14473 Future from Fremont, California. And although they haven't been ranked the highest by performance, if we had a top 25 for team merch and robot aesthetic, I think unanimously they'd be voted number one. But anyways, focusing on their robot, their V2 robot is competing this Saturday, and we can see a little sneak peek of it on the screen right now, and it looks to be pretty promising. We'll see how that new active intake and countersprung virtual 4-bar perform. And we know this is a team that does very well each year. They build super complex and robust robots, and so I think we'll be seeing a great performance from them this weekend.
Yeah, definitely can't wait for their version 2. It would be really interesting to see how much they've changed for it.
Mm-hmm.
In our next spot, we have Team 8813 Winter Soldiers. They made it to Worlds a couple times before and placed really well even just last season. And it's not ironic to see them on this top 25 list. For this season, they have a spherical chassis robot, just like a classic Roomba. And in this type of chassis design, they have given it high maneuverability around the field as it's very small, compact, and instead of like normal rectangular size chassis, they have the circle. So it's like reducing this possibilities of them hitting into one of the junctions or getting stuck. And yeah, I can definitely see them scoring a lot more points in the future once they get their robot really fine tuned.
Yeah, and I've been talking to this team a little bit, and I think they will be working on a new robot. So hopefully we'll see some very high scores coming out of that. But I think regardless, this robot is very interesting for design. I think 8813 always goes for like those crazy designs. They're super low. I feel like always are just like very compact. I know in Relic Recovery they had like a robot that didn't even have a drivetrain. Like it just sat on the balancing stone the whole time. And then last year I remember their robot was super skinny, just with a fast lift and sideways and like arm that rotated out sideways. And I think this team is definitely someone to look out for every year. And that Roomba chassis design was definitely very interesting.
Can we talk about the circular design a little bit more? I mean, is that something you think that team's going to continue with based on what you talked about, based on talking with them, Abbas? And, will we see other teams approach a design that way?
So I don't think they will be continuing with that design, but I think the foundation for it was there was definitely merit behind choosing to do that circular design. I believe the winning robot, either the Winning Alliance captain or one of the robots on the Winning Alliance last year out of Iowa, was also a circular design, and they performed very, very well at the World Championship as well. So it's not like it's a bad design or anything like that. And what's really interesting, I'm pretty sure the way that 8813 got their chassis to be circular was by using a cake pan. So, that's something to think about, right? Yeah, definitely much cheaper than other chassis options. We see teams paying hundreds of dollars for send cut send or just machining it, with a CNC mill or whatever. But just picking up a cake pan from, I don't know, Publix or Walmart or whatever, and then machining that is a pretty interesting thought. I don't know. I thought I'm sure the judges will get a kick out of that as well. Yeah. And so let's move on. Just shy out of our top 15 is another Washington team, and that's Team 18225 High Definition from Bellevue, Washington. I really like how their robot models like the traditional pick and place robots that we see in like the industrial and academic field. They seem to be able to control all of their degrees of freedom like super well, resulting in consistent gameplay throughout the match. They're just shy of the 100 OPR mark, but I'm sure they'll be coming out guns blazing to their interleague tournament this weekend. And just talking about this league a little bit, we'll see a ton of robots from this league in the top 25. We already saw Titanium Talons, and I'm sure we'll see a couple more later on in the night. But we can see High Definition up in that top left corner again, playing on the Red Alliance, and it looks like they must have like at least 4 or 5 degrees of freedom on that arm. Definitely reminds me a lot of Team Snap from last year, who also had a very good run in the Frenzy season, and looks like 18225 is bringing that idea into the power play season and showing like its success. So, any thoughts, Sahil?
Yeah, definitely. When you reminded me about Team Snap, that's the first thing I thought about when I saw that. And it's really hard to control an arm with that many degrees of movement, and it requires so much mechanical work, a lot of optimization in the software, and it's really like awesome that they're actually able to pull it off based off the
Yeah,
idea they saw from last season.
definitely. And I'm super excited to see them competing this Saturday. And I'm sure if any team's going to set a world record, they're definitely one of the ones that have that possibility. And Tyler, before we get into our top 15, why don't you talk about our sponsorships and giveaways?
Yeah, let's start out with the giveaway. So starting out, we got a new giveaway supplier coming in, and we're going to be giving away the Axon Max Servo. If you don't know about Axon Robotics, it's a student-run community that focuses on developing innovative products and solutions for FTC. Their lineup of products range from affordable brushless servos to compact and versatile through-bore encoders, and they're dedicated to making the next generation of robotics parts accessible to all. So if you're interested in winning this, by the way, make sure you are following our channel. You need to be following in order to be eligible. We do redraw if you're not. Subscribers get some extra luck, and type the word Axon, and AXON. Type that in chat right now for your chance to win. And we're going to draw for that right after our sponsorship read here, by the way, which is coming from our friends at SolidWorks. So teams, by the way, if you are not 3D solid modeling yet, you really need to get in on this. In FTC, we're starting to see more and more teams start to do it, and it's so important in the engineering process to do that as well too. SolidWorks is giving away their full suite of apps for free to first teams. Head on over to solidworks.com/first to learn more about it. SolidWorks this year also is including new cloud CAD apps that you can use either completely on the cloud. You can do all your designing on the cloud if you want to, or you can do all your file transfer and sharing through the cloud, and you can run SolidWorks on desktop as well. Do you know that SolidWorks is used at over 85% of universities in the United States? Get on board. Head on over to solidworks.com/first for free for your teams. Head on over there and check it out. Let's draw for that giveaway, by the way, from Exxon. Actually, you know what? Let's let it wait a minute. We'll draw on a couple more teams since that was pretty quick on there. So once again, Axon, type that in chat. That's your chance to win. We'll draw in just a little bit for that.
All right, coming in the 15th spot is team 11228. This team has a brilliant depositor and intake system. They also have the ability to score very well in autonomous, and I just love their design. It's just like one of those positioning robots. It goes in, extends out its arm, grabs the cone, and is able to drop it easily onto the junction.
Yeah, no, I mean, another really strong team. I think we're going to see a strong showing from them. They're going to be competing this weekend at the Michigan State Championship. So hopefully we'll see some really good scores for them. And I'm pretty sure that they posted a video of them and Roboducks scoring like around 270, 280 points. So, we'll see how that translates to in competition performance. But regardless, I'm sure they'll have a very strong showing coming out at the Michigan State Championship. And so going on to our 14th place is another Washington team. That's team 17595 Beta Bionics. They're the other team that contributed to that 9-cone auto 265-point second highest score in the world. And with a very smooth and consistent angled lift and short virtual 4-bar, Beta Bionics is able to easily score cones throughout the match. It'll be interesting to see how they speed up their cycles throughout the season. I really like how they posted like their cycles a little like about a month ago, and then a little bit later like it was a little sped up. So it's nice to see that like improvement throughout the season. And they're in a very tough league and are currently ranked 25th in the world, but only 4th in their league. So that just shows you like how tough the competition is this year. And they'll also be competing this Sunday. So I'm sure we won't have to wait long to see how they do.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely interesting to see them compete in the next coming up Washington competitions. And like you said, 4th and still being top 25 is going to be really hard for them. But I definitely think they have a really good shot at performing really well.
Yeah, definitely. Why don't you go on to our 13th team, Sahil?
In our 13th spot, we have Team 14179. Another team with fast maneuverability and performance is Team 14179 Sushi Squad. This team has a very fast autonomous for the robot, which allows them to get a high cycle. I love the way the robot arm pivots in three different points. It's not exactly like Snap, but it has a lot of maneuverability as well. And it's combined with the linear slide system, which makes it really interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean this was one of my like absolute favorite robots this season. I just love it. I think a big part of the reason they're able to do so well is that they have like a very good driver control and also software control behind it. And I think like one of the only reasons that's possible is just because of how fluid everything is. Like we've seen issues with like other teams with turrets. They often have issues with like the turret wobbling or the arm being so long that it just swings back and forth, causing the robot to be unstable. But this robot is just always running super fast the whole time. And I think it's just really, really impressive how they're able to achieve like such fluid motion throughout just all parts of their gameplay. And I'm definitely very interested to see like what hardware enhancements and software enhancements they've made to do such a thing, because it definitely is not easy.
I just want to chime in that I'm going to assume that they are related to the Sushi Squad FRC team as well too, and I don't know how the two teams work together or whatever, but I know from FRC we've been doing a lot with the Open Alliance where they just post their build blogs the entire year. So I've been following the FRC version of Sushi Squad a lot, and you know if this team is anything like them, I've been extremely impressed with what their entire program has to bring as well too. So really cool to see them on the list and see them be very powerful in both programs as well.
Yeah, definitely. And going on to 12th place, we have team 11039. They're currently ranked third in the world, and that's the Innovators from Fremont, California. At their qualifier, they took home both the Inspire Award and the Winning Alliance Captain with a qualification TBP1, which is your average auto score of 49.8 points. That's basically a 1+5 every single time with parking. Without counting like your partner's score, right? And I feel like if there was more footage of this team out there, they would be ranked like way higher. But it is honestly like pretty difficult to find a match video, and there's like not too much out there. But they're just an extremely nimble robot with a very slim but super efficient claw on a multi-arm axis, and it's just astounding how easily they can control it. You know, we were talking about Sushi Squad and High Definition earlier, and it's just I think they just take it to another level. You know, their autonomous control, their teleop control, everything. This is definitely going to be a team that does super, super well throughout the season. And I'm really interested to know like what software enhancements they're using to ensure that consistency throughout their matches.
Yeah, what I would find really interesting is like because we see the angle that they have set up for when they're picking up from the cone stack, but I wonder like how much it changes when let's say they had to move over to the human alliance spot where they deposit the
Mhm.
cones, and I wonder if it changes up how the gameplay works or if they're able to continue doing it really fast and efficiently.
No, I mean, definitely judging by their ranking, it just is as fast and efficient. You know, like they're
Hmm.
just putting cone after cone. I don't think they'll have any problems this season. Like the only thing I could think is like maybe the robustness of their arm, but honestly, it seems pretty strong. And I'm sure they'll be looking into like maybe some alternative materials for that claw, or you know, they just have some plan in mind of what to do.
Their cleanup on aisle 5 is the winner from Axon Robotics. Congratulations for that. And let's get an exclamation muted in chat since host is muted. But congratulations. Thanks a lot to Axon Robotics for providing this giveaway. We got another one for our top 25 team and some other giveaways from Animar coming up.
Coming in our 11th seat is Team 12518, Alman Robotics. They have a very pink design as usual, and it's been very consistent throughout their tournament. They competed in, I believe, one qualifier, and their scores were always around the 150 mark. So it will be interesting to see how they do in their next coming tournaments and how much their performance increases by then.
Yeah, no, I mean Chesapeake is definitely like a very competitive region this season, especially with like a lot of out of state teams coming in. But I think Outman will definitely hold their own. You know, we've seen them be a regular at Chesapeake Regionals, MTI, even possibly even Worlds before. And I think this season they're turret design has a ton of potential. I think it just needs a little bit of tuning before they can really get those top scores that they want. But a team as seasoned and as experienced as Almond, I have no doubt that they'll be able to get it done. So really looking forward to see how this team performs in future competitions, and I'm sure they're going to do really, really well. So starting off our top 10 is an international team, though they're not coming from very far away. From Ontario, Canada, we have team 16417 ROC Rock, and they're undefeated so far, 6-0, and they average more than 4 cones in autonomous at their qualifier. And although I'd love to talk about their design, unless I'm missing something, it seems like people voted for them just because of their rank on FTC stats, as there are no videos or images of them online. So in the future, make sure you guys do your research, really know what robots you're voting for. And because I'm sure this is a very, very fantastic team that everyone wants to see, there's no one really knows what they look like, right? So hopefully we'll get some footage from their next qualifier on January 14th. But, other than that, we can't really do much.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe there is some. Chat, post it in so we can see it right now. That'd be great. We'd like to show them on screen. Like, sincerely, we really would. So if you do have that, please let us know, and please post videos somewhere on Discord or somewhere so we can actually get these teams up there.
Yeah, it's definitely really interesting seeing some international teams being able to take the top spots. They've been also improving as much as the California teams and a bunch of other teams.
Yeah, and don't worry, we definitely have a few other international teams coming up tonight.
Yep. In our next spot, in the 9th seat, we have team 14259. Another team that is able to score a lot of points in autonomous with their independent intake and outtake system. This gives them a high advantage as they can cycle very flawlessly throughout their autonomous and teleop without running into any problems of their robot moving.
So, Sahil, I know you said they can score a lot of points in autonomous, but I think that's kind of an understatement. As far as I'm aware, this team can currently score the most points in autonomous out of any team that's posted a video. And this video that we have on screen right now is a 1+7 autonomous. So that's the 5 cones on their stack, and then taking 2 of the cones from the other team's stack and picking it and almost picking it up, the 8th cone, so that they can score it later. And it's just kind of crazy how fast they are. And right now they have 3-second cycles, I believe, is what I saw when I timed it. And I know other teams out there are able to achieve even lower cycles. So I'm confident that Turbo V8 can definitely hit that lower mark. And it's just going to be so crazy seeing if they're really able to get that 1+10, later in the season.
Yeah, I definitely like how their outtake system works, because it's like it flips the cone upside down and then drops it onto the junctions, which I thought was very interesting, because you don't see that many teams doing that, but it works really well.
Yeah, and watching this team play like in their qualifier in California, I thought, oh well, if anybody places like a cone like in front of them, like on the ground junction during the match, then they're just gonna be done for the rest of teleop. But that wasn't the case at all. They've definitely practiced a ton. They can score on any of the junctions effortlessly. They know when to switch to score on that low junction or the medium or go over to the next high junction. It's just not a problem for them at all. And Tyler, I kind of want to pick your brain on this. How is it in FRC? Like, if one team is able to just do like an autonomous task that normally takes 2 teams to do they typically run that, or do they split it between the 2 teams?
Oh, I mean, I'd say top tier elite teams are running it themselves. I don't think they're going to split that between any, because you look at, if you have 2 teams that are mediocre that can do it, it really comes down to success rate, right? Is that top tier team doing both things going to be more successful than 2 teams together doing it? I mean, in quals, I'd definitely say I'd be, if my team had it, I'd be the one doing it. And in playoffs, when you have a little more experience working with a team, maybe you can make that decision elsewise. But yeah, I think you definitely would see it.
Yeah, no, I think that'll definitely be very, very interesting. I think this is a little bit like in Rover Ruckus when you had like the mineral or like the gold mineral out of like the 3 you needed to knock off, and sometimes you would see like the top teams would knock off both their own and their partners, but definitely not on the same scale as Turbo V8 and some of the other top teams are here, because doing the other cones on the other stack after year 5 already is just so difficult. And it'll definitely be very interesting to see like how many other teams are able to achieve such a high goal later this season. And let's go on to our eighth place. So in eighth place, we have team 19746, the disruptingly robocephalic brainstem robotics team from Austin, Texas. They've been an absolute powerhouse this season, currently ranked seventh in the world by OPR, with an average of 17 cones scored in the driver controlled period. And remember, there's 20 cones in your stack that the human player starts with, and then 5 and 5 in each of the autonomous stacks. So the fact that they themselves are averaging 17 cones means their alliance partner only has to do 3, which is just like crazy, because it's like, for this whole minute and a half of teleop, not counting endgame, what's your partner supposed to do? And I think completing the auto stack is a good objective, but the disruptingly robocephalic brainstem robotics team has definitely proven how successful they can be this season. And so they have a simple but very effective slide system with a virtual 4-bar for the arm. And even though we've seen this design like implemented across a lot of teams this year, I think it's just that like consistency and optimization that's been so critical for them to be high ranking. And they're currently ranked second in their league, but are well ahead in their tiebreaker 1 autonomous points. So they just need to pick up a few wins at their next competition, and then they'll be cruising into first place.
Yeah, I found it very fascinating how, like, for Freight Frenzy at least, they would get the full zone fully empty a lot later into the season, but for
Mhm.
this season for Power Play, the teams are able to get all those cones done or almost close to every single one done. So it'll be interesting. I feel like it would be like similar to one of the previous games in 2017-18. I forgot the name of that
Yeah,
one.
relic recovery.
Yeah, where they had no all their cubes are stacked and they had like nothing to do for a good amount of time, so they just
Mhm.
went into their end game mode.
Yeah, and although I do see the similarity, I think it's still very different, because in Relic Recovery, the thing was like after completing your side of the game, there was nothing you could do to really mess with the other team, or it was quite difficult. But in Power Play, the idea of junction ownership is just so critical, right? And so it's 3 points for your alliance, but if you cap or if you own one of the junctions that the other alliance had, it's a 6 point swing. And in a game where like our max scores that we're seeing are like 270, 280 points, 6 points repeated multiple times over throughout the match can really add up. And so I think people are like saying like the game's done a little too early, in my opinion. And the
Mhm.
strategy that we're going to see at like later state championships and the world championships and off-season competitions is just going to be crazy. And I'm very excited to see like how teams decide, to maintain like that top ranking and maintain ownership of all of those junctions and score the circuit, as I think that'll be really, really critical to winning their matches.
And, boss, something to add on to that too. At MFRC, there was a game similar to this in 2005 called Triple Play, where it was based on that was more like a tic tac toe sort of thing, but it was still based on having ownership of directions and areas. And I totally agree with you in that strategy at more of a regional level completely changed in the championships and how they approach the ownership of certain rows and that sort of thing too. So I think I agree with you. We'll see something similar for that.
Yeah, definitely. Sahil, why don't you go on to our top 7?
In the top 7 spot, we have the Boston's, one of the team that's been a very favorite in the past, and they have a spot in the solid 25 because they're very solid swinging arm that can be able to score without hesitation. This team has a robot that doesn't only perform well but looks very nice. Like the contrast between the light blue and the black custom, it makes it match really well with their design.
Yeah, I think the Bosons are a team that are strong every year. We've seen them perform in the past. Definitely Ultimate Gold, they had a really cool design, and Freight Frenzy, they were definitely out there. And it's nice to see like that they're already being like super strong at the beginning of the season. I think something that a lot of teams have to deal with is like deciding between having like in going for like a very complex design that has like the potential to score a lot of points, or going for like that simpler design that will score like a decent amount of points earlier in the season, and it'll just be like more than most other teams. And I think the Bosons have found like a nice happy medium between these two. Like there are definitely parts of that robot that are very advanced mechanically and software wise, but overall they're able to achieve a very consistent design throughout, and that's definitely resulted in some high scoring matches like we can see on the screen right now.
Yeah, definitely.
And just missing out on our top 5, we have Team 9527 Rope Resistance from Cedar Park, Texas. road resistance has proven this year that you don't need a crazy extension for your intake, but just tuning, practice, and some good design decisions that can result in a very high scoring robot. They use a combination of a wheel and claw intake to quickly collect their cones with a large margin for error, and they've scored multiple 1+5 autonomous scores in competition. And I'm very excited to see what they have stored for in the future, if they rebuild or just keep making changes to this robot or going for like a crazy new design. And I'm sure either way, they'll put up a ton of points. Um, and it's pretty nice seeing like this very different intake style, like of this active intake combining both like the wheel and the claw idea. And although it's pretty heavy, I think it's definitely very promising. And you can see like how consistently they're able to pick up those cones. Like they just drive towards it and then bam, it's in the robot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned about it was a combination between intake and claw, if I
Yeah.
said correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So I believe they use 4 servos for their intake. So they have one just to like open and close it like a normal claw goes, and then they have one that spins the intake, that like spins the collection wheels. They have one to rotate the arm, and then to rotate the arm so that the cone ends up in the right orientation when they flip around. And then they have another that allows them to pivot the whole arm itself. And so it's a lot of degrees of freedom and it's pretty heavy, but they're definitely able to manage it well. And I think their scores just, prove that completely.
yeah.
In my mind, like the biggest problem with this robot is just like the size and the fact that like it can't go over the ground junction. But I'm sure that a team as good as them is working on a solution to that if they don't already have one.
Yep, definitely. All right. In our fifth seat, holding this position is an Australian team. This team uses a horizontal intake to suck in the cones into the depositor and then release them onto the junctions.
Yeah, Team 12993 Robo Kings Alpha is just absolutely crazy this year. And although their OPR hasn't been uploaded yet, I think the Australian National Championship is just taking some time to get their scores out. They have such an impressive robot. We saw them earlier in the season. I believe this clip is a little older, like from their first qualifier, where they used more like wood and rapid prototyping materials to have a really consistent robot. But since then, they've switched to a metal design, but they haven't changed that active intake, and it's just been so good for them and so consistent for them. And one thing that's really interesting to me about this team is just how smooth everything is. I think in a lot of teams, when they have really long arms or really long claws and things like that, we see like a lot of jittering or backlash or wobbling in the design. But everything is just so set and just consistent with Robo Kings Alpha, and that's why I think they're definitely one of my favorites to just take it all home in power play.
Dude, this turret is so smooth on their team. Just watching that in auto was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and they do, with the Australian National Championships already over, they don't have any other competitions until the World Championship. So it'll be very interesting to see like what they decide to do with their robot design. Regardless, I'm sure they'll make the right decision and come out with something that's just super, just blazingly fast. And it's been a bit since we've talked about a Washington team. We had a bunch of them earlier in the higher ranks, but in fourth place we have team 16379, the Kooky Bots from Sammamish, Washington. I think everyone is familiar with the swerve drive they have, which allows them to just zip around the field. And combining this with their extremely fast intake slides, transfer, and funneling deposit means they can achieve some super fast cycles. And although they haven't had as high scores as we've expected in competition, I think just a bit of practice and making sure everything is consistent will go a long way for them. This is a team that everyone seems to be very familiar with on the Discord, and it's definitely crazy seeing like how fast their cycles are. I think the thing I'm most impressed by with them is their deposit, like being able to passively funnel the junction into their cone is super effective, and means they spend absolutely no time lining up every time they cycle. And I think this is like sort of really interesting. I wonder if First intended to have this, like with the fact that the junctions have springs at the bottom, and using that springing to their advantage is definitely super important. What do you think, Saho?
Yeah, I definitely remember early season when they posted their video. People are like, "Oh, did you put it in 2 times speed?" And I was like, "No, it's all in normal speed." And it was
Yeah,
very interesting to see that, like, they're able to get everything in their advantage, make sure to cut down wherever they could for their timings to get their cycle as short as possible. Because like the fact that they, instead of like having to go 2 inch higher to get it, which adds up time, they ended up tilting it, which is very interesting to see that they managed to put everything to their advantage.
definitely. And I'm very interested to see like how this plays in with other robots like on the same field going for that same junction. You know, if it messes them up, like even though it's still like within like with even the junction is still like bent legally, if it messes up the other robots or if they're able to account for that or anything like that. And I'm wondering if we'll see even more of these designs coming out that are similar to this or have like other capabilities in which they don't have to go all the way on top of the junction and then back down. And so they compete this weekend at their interleague. So I'm very excited to see how they do. And Tyler, why don't we talk about our next giveaways and sponsors?
Yeah, more giveaways to do. Starting with our friends from AnyMark, they're going to be giving away both the AnyMark Goat and the Electric Goat T-shirt. So coveted AnyMark Goat, right? So of course, who doesn't love a goat plushie? Keep it for yourself or make it your team's mascot. I think AnyMark wants you to do that. New for the 2023 first Energized season, you can get a fashionable bright yellow T-shirt with the Electric Goat T-shirt as well too. So head on over to anymark.com if you're interested in winning this. Make sure you are following our channel. Subs get some extra luck and type GOAT in chat. Right now, type GOAT in chat. That's your opportunity to win from AnyMark. Also, by the way, big thanks to Kettering University for their continued support of First Updates Now. Hey, if you don't know, Kettering has amazing scholarships that are available right now. They give away dozens of scholarships to those that are in First. Head on over to kettering.edu/first to learn more about the robotics scholarships they have available, up to $5,000 per year, and it's renewable as well, too. There are so many people I've been hearing about that are going to Kettering, are loving their combat BattleBot team that they're trying to get going, their esports league, their huge First Center they have as well too. So head on over to kettering.edu/first, learn more about their scholarships, what they have to offer, and see if you could be a great fit for Kettering. And we'll draw for that AnyMark giveaway in just a little bit.
Yeah, I love that Andy Mark goat that they added to their store. It's definitely going to be very interesting to see who wins that one. All right. Now for the moment you've been waiting for. In the third spot, we have team 19458, a solid team that's been practicing with Alvin Robotics, and they have a guider that is helping them to score their autonomous points and teleop points very easily. I found it very interesting because instead of having to line up and position themselves into the right spot, they just clamp right down onto it and then are able to pick it up a lot easier that way. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
no, I think Equilibrium.exe is definitely a fantastic team. I believe they're probably from the Wizards.exe like family, like umbrella organization, and those robots are always crazy, and it looks like this year is no exception. I'm very interested to see how they improve throughout the season. We've talked about Chesapeake and how tough of a region it is. I think this just exemplifies it. They're one of the top teams in Chesapeake, and they scored 1+5 cones, albeit on the mid junction, but still a 1+5 every single match in their qualifier. And doing something so consistently is definitely one of the hardest objectives in FTC, in my opinion. And the fact that Equilibrium.exe has been able to meet that goal for the mid junction is definitely very, very impressive.
Yeah, I believe that for Chesapeake they had I think it was like a qualifying match where they're in the finals winning
Mm-hmm.
lines.
Yeah, no, I mean they took it all home at their
Yeah.
first qualifier, winning Alliance captain, just super consistent performance every single match. Just a great robot overall. I'm really excited to see how it develops throughout the season. All
Yeah.
right, let's go on to our penultimate spot for the December FTC Top 25, and this goes to another Washington team. This time, it's Team 21229 Quality Control. Coming out of the incredibly tough Bardeen League, Quality Control performed quite well at their most recent meet 2 weeks ago. We saw multiple 1+5 autonomous programs, and for about a week, they had the world record at 244 points. The thing that stands out to me most about their robot is probably their deposit. Like other teams we've seen this season, they have a passive deposit, but I think where quality control differs and really shines is that the base of their deposit is a cone itself, right? They've like 3D printed a cone at a much lower height, and so they use that to stabilize and center the cone that they want to score, and then they drop it off in a similar fashion to Bots and other teams we've seen this season, and are able to just perform super consistency and super consistently. And I think their high scoring consistency definitely shows off like the value of such a design. What do you think, Saho?
Yeah, I found it very interesting how they come to that idea of using like the stabilization to keep the cone in the right spot, because I wonder like what made them think, oh, let's have this at the back of the robot, and then that's gonna help it set it up to go onto the junction. It's definitely very interesting to see how they thought of that idea.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one thing that's also interesting to me is like with a turret, it's kind of difficult sometimes to know like which junction to score on or lining up to different junctions. But one thing that I noticed in their gameplay was that they were very easily and consistently able to score on that close high junction to them, like right next to the human player station, as well as the one on the opposite side of the field, like where the other alliance would typically be scoring. And I think that's just a testament to like a lot of driver practice and making sure you really know your way around the field, right? And it's definitely very impressive and has led to some of their high scores. So, taking the number one spot for our December top 25 is Team 9889 from Cruise Control from New Jersey. They competed this past Saturday and just absolutely blew their competition out of the water. With an OPR of 140 points and the current world record of 271, they're just doing incredible things. And although they don't have the most complex robot design or crazy intake extension or like swerve drivetrain or anything, I think their driver control and consistency is just such a huge factor and testament like to their scoring ability. We just finished recording a behind the bot with them, so I'm super excited to get that out, release it, so everyone can learn more about their robot. But it's just so impressive how consistently they're able to score. And I believe in their world record match, which we have on screen right now, they actually, in order to score more points, tipped back a cone that was fallen over and then proceeded to score it, like all within the match time. And so, teams were talking about this earlier in the season, like, oh, tipping back cones is going to be like such a useful thing. And then other people were like, oh, no, well, you really shouldn't tip them over in the first place. So it's not really something you need to have. But I think Cruise Control has shown, like, just with a little bit of driver practice and using your mechanisms right, you're able to do this very quickly. And actually, it's just on screen right here, right now. So why don't we take a couple seconds and just watch it? I think they get it like after one or two tries. It's end game. Time's ticking down. It's a high pressure situation. And right there, they're able to get that cone picked up and then score it and just continue along with the match. What do you think, Saho?
Yeah, it's definitely very beautiful how they just like went down and then pushed it over, because usually like it's nice to see that they didn't have to make a separate mechanism for it. They used this exact same one and put it to their advantage, practice driving, and got it practice really well, so then they could be able to undo it, which I found really interesting that they're able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's going to wrap up our December FTC top 25. What teams do you think deserve to be in the top 25 that weren't? I think every year, every time we do top 25, one of the problems is that like, oh, right as our show is, teams are competing like a couple days before. So it's really tough for everybody to vote for them or see how they're doing. And so, a lot of top teams miss out. But, let us know in the fun Discord or comment on the YouTube video. And don't forget to vote each month for FTC top 25. And before we end for the night, Tyler, why don't we do our giveaways?
Yeah, and just add on, vote for them next month, right? If you weren't able to get them from this month, make sure you vote for them next month. And also, Abbas mentioned that we're doing a bunch of Behind the Bots, by the way. If your team is interested, reach out to Abbas on Discord. Let's get you set up with the virtual Behind the Bot. We got what, Abbas, right now? Another like 6-7 teams in the pipeline already right now?
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, very excited to do it. Get your team out now. I'm telling you, if you look at already the first two videos we posted, they're getting way, way more attention than if you wait till after championships. Because after championships, everybody's seen it, right? Get your bot out now. Even if you're going to iterate and make a new one later, let's get you on and let's get you an interview as well, too. Let's draw for the Andy Mark GOAT and T-shirt first. So once again, for our friends at Andy Mark, winner for that is going to be Pufferfish King. Congratulations, Pufferfish King, for winning that. And then we actually have a couple more giveaways that we're going to do courtesy of both Andy Mark and also Axon Robotics. So let's read off what those are going to be. From Axon Robotics, they're giving away a Cerebral Programmer and an Axon Mini Plus Servo, and that's going to go to one of the top 25 teams. It's kind of a cool thing, I think, that they offered to do for something like this. So we'll put that on screen, by the way, so you can see that's the Axon Cerebral Programmer that's on there. And that's, I'm just going to draw a random number between 1 and 25. Who's our number 3 team, Abbas?
Our number 3 team, I believe, is going to be team 19458 Equilibrium.exe from Maryland.
Okay, so they're going to be our winners for the Axon giveaway. So that's both for a Cerebral Programmer and for the Mini Servo. And then from Andy Mark is going to give away 6 of the 8-inch millimeter bore 35 durometer green wheels. So a little bit more about that, and we'll put that on screen, and we'll draw a winner for that as well too. So these are the original compliant wheels. They're intended to move objects and give way to allow rigid objects to be manipulated easy. So a pack of 6 of those is going to go to who's our number 11?
Our number 11 team is going to be team 12518 Almond Robotics, also from Maryland.
Well, all right.
So,
Clearly it's rigged for,
yeah.
for people in Maryland. But congratulations to Almond as well. If you don't see this, we'll reach out to the teams so they get that as well too. And thanks a lot to both Axon and Andy Mark for the awesome giveaways.
Yeah. Sahil, why don't you start our outro?
Okay. Thank you for all the follows and subscriptions we received today. Don't forget that you can subscribe for free through Twitch Gaming. We hope you enjoyed this episode of FTC Top 25. If you want to stay connected with what happens with First Updates Now, what FTC is doing, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram with the handle FunFTC, and join our Discord through the link in the chat.
Yeah, and on behalf of myself, Sahil, and our producer Tyler working behind the scenes, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. Keep an eye out for future FTC Top 25s, FTC recaps, behind the bots, everything on YouTube and Twitch, and for when the FTC Top 25 poll opens for next month. Bye, everyone.
This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. SOLIDWORKS is free for first teams. Over 80% of U.S. engineering schools and 370,000 plus companies use SOLIDWORKS to design great products. SOLIDWORKS can help you design a great robot on desktop or on the cloud. Go to solidworks.com/first to register your team. At Kettering University, over 30% of the student population was in high school robotics. These same students have received a portion of over $7 million in scholarships. Scholarship applications for first students are now available. Get more information at kettering.edu/first. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow. Join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow, and check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.